What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast.
If you want to be successful, look inside.
We don't like sitting in the discomfort.
Then all of a sudden that day came when I got $20 and 2 free drinks to do a show, and I was like, oh shit, here we go, baby. You know?
Thank God she hasn't caught a chicken yet, because she'll tear her head off.
Don't be soft.
That patience is key.
If all my friends are winning, then it's going to make me want to win more.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast. Today we have two very special guests, two guys who are personally helping me along my journey of growth and sustainability in my business and in my life. And I gotta say thank you, first of all, to these two guys. Now, introduce them properly, since we got two of these savages up in here. First off, we got our management consultant, tech executive, and entrepreneur. He's advised Fortune 1000 companies on strategy, innovation, go-to marketing initiatives, and how to best scale. Casey Berman. And on the other end, we have this tremendous business strategist turning multi-six-figure dadpreneurs into business titans. He's built and sold his 7-figure law firm in 11 months and is leading the way in teaching people how to build a sustainable and scalable business. He is known as the CEO Whisperer, Nikhil Agharkar. And lastly, these two guys, along with other partner JD, have partnered up to start their newest venture called BAM & Company Consulting, where these three entrepreneurial savages look to share with online entrepreneurs the secret strategies and tactics the Fortune 1000 companies are using to succeed and thrive every single day. Guys, welcome to the Sweat It Out podcast show. Woo!
Wow. What an intro. Wow.
What an intro.
I got to write that down. Thank you, man. It's great to be here.
Thank you for that welcome. We really are happy to be here.
No, thank you guys, and really appreciate the you guys wanting to come on here and really share something that is super important, especially in today's world where the word entrepreneur is thrown out there all the time, just thrown around. And I think that you guys coming in here and disrupting something that I think is going to also, I don't want to say the word bother, but I think it's going to also make people feel a certain way. And I think they need to hear it coming from you guys to let them know what's the real deal behind building true businesses and keeping them sustainable. So really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, you know, Anthony, I really appreciate that. And just to pull on a thread there that we were talking about just before we came on, you know, Casey and I, we work as management consultants, and oddly enough, we're both trained as attorneys. So we turned to basically coaching Fortune 1000 CEOs and teams on how to really properly structure and think about their businesses. And as a side hustle, because everyone, it's 2020, 2021, you got to have a side hustle. I started a little e-commerce brand, and I started getting served all these ads from all of these online entrepreneurs who claim to be gurus, and they're promising that you can scale to the moon. They're going to show you marketing and sales, and everyone just talks about marketing, sales, and scale. And that's great, right? At the beginning, sure, that's what you need. But then what? If you just keep doing that, right? If you just focus on marketing and sales and then scaling that, you're going to burn out. You're not going to last 30 years in the game because all you're doing is hustling and grinding. And yeah, I get it. Like, that's very romantic, right? To say, you got to hustle, you got to grind, you're going to give blood, sweat, and tears. It's a very romantic idea, but it's also a great way to fail. And so that was the piece of the market that I thought that maybe Casey and I could serve, because we've really done it at a very large scale.
I want to ask you, why do you think that people believe that they just need to grind it out for so long and never really take that next step or even understand that that step is available to them?
If I'm being a little cynical about it, you know, it's the gurus want and need that mentality. Right? Because they can sell you more stuff. They can give you more things that will keep sort of just pouring gas on the fire, right? So you'll see these revenue spikes, right? Sure, do this affiliate campaign. All right, my revenue went up, and then it died as soon as the campaign went off, right? Okay, do this other sales tactic. No, big revenue spike, great, right? So it's almost, you just feed this hamster wheel of, okay, if I hustle and grind and I find that next thing, I just keep grasping at things, it works. And look, those spikes, they could be 3-4 months. Heck, they could be a year, right? And so that's the way they kind of get you, right? Because you're on autopilot of just seeking out that next thing. Like, Casey, what do you think?
Yeah, it's, for me, it's a great question, like why? And I think I don't want to get too, we can go real broad of this, but the idea really is the belief systems that we have. And you can go into religious belief systems, cultural, and we can take it there if we want. But I think, if you just look at it, one of the belief systems we have is, pull yourself by your bootstraps and hustle and no pain, no gain, and all of that. And being an entrepreneur has come into vogue recently with the stories. You got the 80s and Bill Gates and all of these stories, and now you're seeing it a dime a dozen online. And so we just literally believe it. And I think one thing that Nick and I are saying is that you need to work hard. Don't get me wrong, you need to do this, but there's a different way to scale and to grow if you believe it. Think about no pain, no gain. Are you going to take an oar in a canoe and just use your muscle energy to get from point A to point B across the water, or are you going to put up a sail and make it easy? And I think having things be easy and scale and automate, a lot of people pay lip service to it, but they don't do it because we just kind of etched in our mind is like, if I'm not working hard, I'm not doing the right thing. A lot of us come from employee mindset where we're taught 9 to 5, in many ways. And I've struggled with this too. Like, if you're not actually working and like fingers to keyboard or doing something, you feel guilty. You feel bad. And that's a belief system we don't want people to have. Not that you need to be loafing around or taking advantage of people, not at all. But if you create value and in a product, let it scale, let it grow. And this is what the Titans do. This is what Fortune 1000 companies do. This is what the main CEOs do. They delegate, they automate, and so on. And that's a message that we want to share.
Yeah, I think it's so important that you brought that up too, because we talk about it in health and fitness as well with people in the gym and with our clients is all they want to do is go super hard and do CrossFit style workouts and, basically try to be Mr. Olympia. And we have to tell them too, like, you need to be able to take a step back. Yeah, you got to go hard sometimes, but pick the right spots, right, to really go all in, and then back out. Maybe you tread water for a little while, you reconfigure things, you reassess and readjust, and then you can go hard again. But too many people, I feel like, think that if you're not 110% focused on this one in particular thing, then you're gonna, like you said, you're missing out. You're not ahead of the game. You're not catching up to everybody. And I'm glad that you were able to bring that point up.
The whole no pain, no gain mentality with fitness, right? That's an old school thing. Obviously, still people use it, but so it's really comes from an old school mentality of just push through it, and then you get hurt, and then you set yourself back. So it's like now I think like coaching's evolved even in our end when doing personal training, especially in the past, like making people understand like, hey, it's not about pushing through all the time and going 110% all out and then burning yourself out. Next, in the next section you come in, you're freaking dead tired, you can't do anything, or you're going to get hurt.
Well, I think too, on the flip side, at certain times you do just kind of have to tough it out, and you do have to grind it out, and you do kind of have to deal with some of that, quote unquote pain. But a lot of the other times, finding maybe a little more smart approach on how to accomplish things where you don't have to put so much time and effort into it, and you can find, an easier way to take that path is the appropriate route to go sometimes.
I love that word smart. Right? Because I think that so many entrepreneurs they kind of turn off their brains, right? Once they get a great idea or they've created this great offer, they just go hard and they just stop thinking, right? And it's really important that you do it smart, right? How do you do it smart? You plan it out, right? You really think strategically about what are my next steps, right? And when you build out that strategy piece, that smart piece, right, and keep your brain with you, and take your brain with you along the journey, you actually start being able to see, like, okay, you know what? And I was saying this to Anthony just the other night. You could be presented with a great idea, right? It might be a multi-million-dollar idea, but if it's not part of your plan, if it's not really built into how you're doing your business, it may not be the best fit for you. Yeah. Right? And so you're able, because you have that plan, because you took your brain with you, you're able to say no. And you're able to say, you know what? Listen, that's a great idea. Maybe 3 years from now, it could fit in. But right now, I can't. Because if I do it, then I'm just chasing that next thing. And if you're chasing, you're losing.
So I want to ask you guys, just because I know it's something we can all agree that we see pretty often. How about some of these entrepreneurs that maybe started from nothing? They had nothing, come from super poor families, poverty, and they're just grinding. They just like so pissed. And obviously there's like a time and place and everything, right? We said like, hey, there are moments, hey, you got to go out to get yourself out of situations. But
yeah,
how do you help an entrepreneur like that who's literally grinded, got themselves out, created success, but that's all they know, that grinding mentality? How do you help them unmarry that so that way they don't burn out and they can continue moving forward with creating sustainability in their business, but also too making them understand like, hey, you have to find a middle ground of, yes, work hard, but work smart.
Yeah. So the first, Nick, love to hear your thoughts. We talk about this all the time. That something that comes to me is that saying of like going up to a fish. You know, fish is swimming, and you say, "Hey, fish, how's the water?" And the fish says, "What's water?" Right? Like, what are you talking about? Like, and so the idea, whether it's culture and so on, is to go to this person and commend him or her, pat them on the back, celebrate them for all they've done, because that's huge, right? The next step is to get out of the water, and and I mean, keep that water, but also there's other water, there's other culture, there's other beliefs, right? And Anthony, I saw this on one of your recent posts on Instagram where someone asked about, what am I supposed to price my course, right? You did this. You're like, hold on, take a step back. How experienced are you, right? Like, how many product, like, get out of the water of just, should it be $99, $499, $1,000? Like, get out of that water and just take a step back to kind of look at it, whether 30,000 foot view, whatever imagery you want works for you. And so that's kind of the first thing, just like you did in that post, which was, and this is where our strategic vision comes from, is coming up, stepping back, looking at. So with someone like that, you would say, look, you've hustled here. It's great. In the same way, like in the Matrix, when Neo stopped the bullets and all of a sudden he saw the ones and zeros and he's like, wait a minute, I see the Matrix. We sort of help someone like that see the Matrix, and that you can take a step back, understand what it is you want. Do you really want to hustle? Because I would think even on a personal level, this person, if they've been hustling for 3, 5, 7, 10 years and they're making money, they don't want to hustle as much anymore. They want to spend time with their kids. They want to take some time off and not be on the hamster wheel, right? So we would talk about it personally with them. What are their vision? What are their goals? Also from the business standpoint, okay, you sell a course. What else do you want to do? Do you want to get in entertainment? Do you want to franchise things? Do you want to license something? Do you want to build something else? Like all of that. And then when we do that, through all that conversation, believe it or not, they're able to kind of bring themselves out of that water and see things they otherwise couldn't. And then from there, once you have that vision and those goals, well, all right, let's put a project in place. Let's put a second project in place. Let's have tactics. And then you just have your chart moving forward. It's that initial upstream thing about where I really want to go is where we'd help someone like that visualize.
Yeah, and I think that what's interesting is that every large, they aren't startups anymore, but take Google, Facebook, Twitter, they all focused on sales and marketing at the beginning, right? So they did it the same way. The hustle and grind was there from the beginning. But the step, and Casey and I kind of call it the look back of, okay, they did great. They got to this phase. And what they did is they looked back and they said, okay, well, what did we do to get here? And how can we change things to get to a different place, right? Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, it's not going to, there's going to be a ceiling to your growth, right? To get from the floor to the mid-level, that takes one set of tactics and strategies. But to get to those next levels, to get to those upper echelons, you need different strategies and different tactics. But the problem is that the hustle and grinder, that person who literally came from nothing, is like, what are you talking about, man? Yeah. I have so much more money than I've ever seen, than my parents ever saw in their entire lives. I must be doing something right. So it's also shifting that mindset of, listen, you did great, absolutely. But let's look at what some of your larger competitors are doing. And are they doing the same thing or different things? Because then dollars to donuts, they're doing different things. And let's take you to that next level. Let's show you how you can then build on what you have, which is awesome, and really kind of slow down the hustle and grind so that you are building systems. And again, online, so much lip service is paid to systems and SOPs, and people start believing that, oh, what I need is a system. But no one is there to show you how to properly set up a system and what that looks like, because so many are just saying, oh, a system, just hire some VAs. That's your system.
Yeah.
That's not a system. And that's not how we organize teams in corporate America. It's not how entrepreneurs should be organizing their teams either.
Mm-hmm. Anthony, I'll give you a real life example that I just helped from a public company.
Awesome.
So this isn't, just isn't entrepreneur, public company, tech company here, San Francisco. They've done phenomenally well with their technology with early adopters. Jeffrey Moore, Crossing the Chasm, that book about how a company crosses that chasm to really grow and blow it out. And they're public. I mean, this is a public company, right? And they do great with tech people, early adopters, innovators, the people that get their technology. They weren't doing really well with what are called the majority companies, those across the chasm, the bigger companies, right? Think of a United Airlines or something like that, right? Old school companies that they could get to. And it was literally just like that entrepreneur you talked about, a mindset shift, this company that we helped them go through, which was, I just sell innovation. I just want to sell innovation, the coolest thing. They were like mechanical about it. And we literally had to rewire their sales team to realize, like, you can sell innovation and all this cool, fancy stuff to early adopter tech companies who will buy it from you. But when you want to go to kind of the older school companies, the United Airlines, Comcast, things like that, you need a different message. They're just trying to get their security systems in place. They're trying to get their infrastructure in place. They're not worried about innovation. They're trying to make sure they're not hacked, right? And so this research, but that's an example from the real world with a $1 billion company and really helping them do a mindset shift. Those are the type of stories and things that we want to bring from the Titans and bring to the entrepreneur. You mentioned that example. It all applies, and it can really, really help so many people.
Because remember, Jeff Bezos one day, in 1990, came up with this idea. In the 1990s, came up with this idea. At one point, he was just like every other entrepreneur, alone in an office with his, computer. So, it's really like, what's the difference? The difference is just the mindset and the strategies and the understanding that at some point you have to pivot. You can't just keep doing the same thing. It's the same thing in personal fitness, right? If you do the same exercises over and over and over again, yeah, you might get in shape, but honestly, if I put you in a different situation, you'd be the weakest guy in the gym, right? Yep. 100%. So, it's a similar story with business.
Mm-hmm. And you guys were really touching on mindset there, and I'd like to dive in a little bit of that, and then I have a second question as well. Along the mindset thing, and this is something that I found out even with my own clients is, really getting them to speak out into existence. And by that, I mean like talking to someone about it, getting someone to ask them these questions, right? These very open-ended questions, and making them really think about it, analyze it, and then speak it out into the universe. Why do you guys think that is so important? To actually verbalize it before, because I know, Casey, that you were saying, like, people really want to get pen to paper. They really want to get on their keyboard. Why is it important to speak out and talk to someone and get these open-ended questions thrown your way before you actually start, writing down some of these ideas?
What a great question. Fantastic question. And I'll start, Nick, jump in. We do this a lot through workshops and the research that we do. I'm the nice guy. Nick pushes more. So we make a good balance here, but you need both of that. But, there's a few reasons, and I see it even with myself in the morning when I do my automatic writing and I get my ideas out, like at 6 a.m. with my coffee and my dog there, everyone's still asleep, and I'll just start writing and getting stuff out, business and personal. All of a sudden, like, I'll have some smack in the face moments of like, whoa, either just calling myself on my BS or new ideas that come out. So there's one, that's where kind of a lot of innovation, which is this buzzy word, like what does it really mean? Innovation is literally tapping in to a dimension. I don't want to get too woo-woo here, but it's literally, right? Like, it when you're in the zone, when you're playing sports, when you're lifting, when you're doing something, you get in the zone. It's almost like you let go of you kind of let go of the wheel and you just let go to a higher level of consciousness, right? So flow state, exactly. When you ask those questions, part of it is it helps you get in the flow state. Like, we've worked with clients and they go, keep going, don't stop, let's take notes, record this. Ideas are coming out. It just comes out. And that's one thing that we had a lot is we ask the questions, we create a safe space. Nick and I aren't judging you. It's not your spouse or your kids or your employees. Sometimes the employees don't want to hear that you have doubt, even though you as a business leader do. So that's the first level is these questions really pull you into that flow state. The second area is that it's accountability. Now the idea is out. Like, you got to look at it like, whoa, there it is. It's not in my head, which I can ignore because I can go think about, you know, the NFL draft, or I can go think about something else, right? Like, it's on the paper, I see it, right? And then the third element is, now that it's on the paper, it becomes your strategy. And well, now you point to the strategy. It's like separate from you. So if someone says, to what Nick was saying earlier, hey, let's do ABC, you go, sorry, it's not part. Does it fit with my strategy? There's a great story, Anthony, I think we talked about, where the British crew team, their 8C crew team, they were doing horribly for many years, 50s, 60s, 70s. And in the 2000 Sydney Olympics, they wanted to win. Like, they were just embarrassed on the world stage. And they had, as they were training, the line was, will it make the boat go faster? So the whole point was, as they're training through the years, well, we have one question. Let's go to the pub tonight. Will it make the boat go faster? No. All right. No. Let's go to bed early. Let's do some exercise. Will it make the boat go faster? Yes. So, like, the third point then is, when you're able to take that out and make it, this idea, your strategy, you get your own question. Will it make the boat go faster? And that's kind of your litmus test. And then you have clarity, like, you know, I'm going to do this task because it will make my boat go faster, or it won't. But that was a great question. And those are kind of the three things that really result and manifest when you start that type of line of questioning.
So yeah, and you know, to really go full woo-woo on answering that question, right? Speaking into existence, I go back all the way back to the Big Bang, right? When the hydrogen atoms collapsed in on themselves and exploded, and we all became, right? And look, it's not a theory; it's proven science. We are star stuff, right? We are made up of the same elemental structures as stars, right? We are part of the universe. There is universal energy. I believe this, right? So when you speak those things into existence, one of the things that neuroscientists have found is that we all have a sort of a default mode, right? A default mode network where we're just zeroed in on whatever we're doing and we're kind of mindless, right? But when you interrupt that, and when you really start focusing on your thoughts and observing them, you actually interrupt that default mode network, and you're able to find a lot more clarity. And, you know, one of the things, Casey and I were talking to another client, and we were asking him, you know, how do you think these sessions are going? How is this feeling to you? And he said, man, this is awesome. I can't talk to anyone, because entrepreneurs, as almost to rule, it seems these days, are solopreneurs, right? And they have a team. Sure, they might have some contractors, some VAs, but they can't ideate with them. They can't bounce ideas off of them, because you're the boss. You tell me what to do, right? So he was saying, you know, I can't talk to my wife. She just looks at me blankly. I have no one to really get the creative juices flowing. And to Casey's point, when we do these workshops with our, you know, corporate clients, it's amazing. The ideas that these people come up with just by talking to one another and just by getting those ideas flowing. And I think that's part of it. Another part of why we're doing what we're doing is to give those entrepreneurs a real sounding board that has this experience.
No, I absolutely love that. And I actually got two questions here. So first question would be, do you find it harder to coach people through the actual getting those ideas out and putting it on paper, or actually getting them to put the action steps and taking action on the actual ideas? What have you found harder, and what are the tools that you guys use on each one to help them get to the other side? And I know we've worked together, but I would love it for you guys to share it to the audience.
Yeah, I think I'll take the second part first. So the tools are pretty straightforward, right? It's project planning, mapping out timelines, creating basically very tactical lists, right? That is, honestly, that's the easier part. And I feel like once you get the harder part are really the ideas, right? And we have sort of structured ways. We talk about creating customer journey maps, right? So we might sit down with you and say, okay, who's your ideal customer? How do they go from being out in the world to being your client? What are all the different steps? And then we might list out all of the different pain points along those steps. And then we might ideate around, well, how might we solve this pain point? And then we come up with different ideas, any idea, right? This process is long. It can take sometimes days, weeks, sometimes months, right? To really get down to a set of few ideas that you can really start building out plans. And that's the unsexy part of business, right? this is the part of business that it's like going to the sausage factory and seeing the gross work that you have to do to actually produce these ideas, right? And this, in my opinion, is where too many entrepreneurs give up. And it's where the magic happens, right? And because it's just like in the personal fitness, right? Oh man, I can't do another rep. It's too hard, right? But that's where the magic happens. When, look, I mean, Muhammad Ali said he doesn't start counting until it hurts, right? Because that's what counts. Yep. And that's what counts in business too. It's going to hurt. Coming up with these ideas, it's going to be a long process, but it's so worth it and so important.
Yeah. I love that you said that real quick, and I don't mean to interrupt, but it's just, I find it's like, I feel like, especially in today's world, everybody, you hear that whole, you got to do what you love. If you don't love it, get out of it. Okay, if you don't love it, get out of it. And I'm like, people don't understand that if you keep jumping around, you're never going to find something you're never going to stick to something that you probably actually did love. Now you cut yourself short and you're bouncing up to something else that maybe you don't even truly, truly love. It could have been that thing before, but just because you're trying to escape the things that you didn't want to do in that thing, and now you're setting yourself back. And I think that people need to understand, like, hey, you're going to have to do shit that you don't like in the thing that you love most. Yeah. But you got to love it so much that you're willing to go through those little things to get that lovable result that you want at the end of the day. And I just feel like, I don't know, in today's society, I feel like there's a lot of that going on.
Well, I think,
man, listen, I have a 2-year-old. I love him in pieces. I don't like cleaning his butt. Like, I got to do it, right? I don't either.
I think too, it's funny. I joke around with Anthony about this, but it's a real serious point is, I have a lot of my friends come up that have seen me have success in his coaching program, and they're like, well, how have you been doing? I'm like, well, I, do X, Y, and Z. And that's, what people have found success in this program. And he's like, well, there's gotta be an easier way. There's gotta be a better way. I'm like, okay, even if there was an easier way, a better way, I'm giving you a fucking blueprint of like how I'm telling you multiple people in our industry are being successful. And you don't want to take it because you got to put in a little bit of work. It's like, but you were successful in-person training, and now you want to get into online. Well, what were you doing in person? You were talking to people on the floor. The new floor is just, your DMs now or wherever. It's like you got to do the same things that made you successful. And however you started your first part of your career as you're transitioning, doesn't mean that it's going to get easier, that there's a more simple way to do it. Just means, like Anthony was saying, like you guys are saying, sometimes you do got to grind it out. Sometimes you do got to do the tough things, and you got to ask yourself the tough questions, and you got to ask other people tough questions in order to be able to get to, the greener side of the grass, right?
If you talk about grind, you're totally right. And talking about grind, I've realized if there's something I don't really believe in, I'm just not aligned with, I'm doing it for the money, it's a lot harder for me to get it done. I get anxious. I don't feel as comfortable. It takes me twice the time. I'm working weekends or whatever. When there's something, that's a grind. And then when there's something that I love, like this, other work that I've done, I mean, you just flow. Now, it's hard work. You still need to get it done. But I'm loving it. I see the end state. And so when people say to me, well, there's stress and everything, and there's always, you're right, there are always challenges. It's just when I'm doing something like you guys are doing, like we're doing at BAM, when you're doing something that you're really aligned in and just feeling, you're up for the challenge. The anxiety goes away, right? And so how do you then get up for the challenge? How do you do that? Well, part of it is what you were talking about, Anthony, is this strategy, is thinking this through. So Anthony, you asked, is it hard? How does it work? If I'm looking at 3 stages, it's kind of like just thinking I want to work with a BAM company or something like that. I want to think outside the water, right? Then there's the actual workshops we do and the ideation. And then there's the project. All right, let's put this into place. Putting it into place takes work, but you have a project plan, you know what you're doing. The ideation part, you got to be courageous, you got to be brave, but it's actually a lot of fun. It's almost like if you go to a therapist or a trainer and you're like, I'm going to get better here, right? So there's that. The tough part for me is in the beginning, which is kind of admitting I don't know what I don't know. I want to look elsewhere. I want to get another type of coach instead of thinking you know everything. Instead of thinking it's just hustle. For me, that's a hard part. Once someone is just kind of open, like, I want to scale. I want to do this. Maybe there is another water to go in. It kind of flows from there.
And, Casey, I think what's interesting is that in the entrepreneur space, it's kind of it's hard sometimes to keep that feeling of no ego that maybe you developed in the beginning, right? In the beginning, when you're starting out, you really don't know anything, right? So you can't afford to have an ego, right? You start listening to everyone, get coaching, but as you get traction and as you're having those, 6-figure months, 7-figure months, you start thinking, man, I got it made. I know all there is to know, right? And so it's making sure throughout your journey that you continually stay humble and keep that ego in check. Because
I don't know shit, guys. I don't know shit.
Nick, thanks for bringing that up. And Anthony, Nick, you're totally right. And Anthony, I've seen this in you as we work together. Yeah. It's actually in Japan. It's called the Shoshen Method, SHOSHIN, and it's a Zen technique. It's the beginner's mindset. And I don't know shit is essentially a way of saying I know my stuff, but now that I'm going into this phase, I'm literally going to try and wipe my mind clean, my programming, because it actually hurts me, right? I don't want to be an expert. I want to learn new things, right? And so it's the Shoshen Method, the beginner's mindset, and we actually have workshops where we take you through that to kind of, as much as possible, clean your mental palette, if you will, so you can learn new things. And then that's where the new ideas come around.
Yeah, I mean, the Oracle of Delphi called Socrates the wisest man in the world because he famously said something akin to, I don't know what I don't know. Yeah. And he readily admitted, look, and people come to him from everywhere to study with Socrates. And he himself said, I don't know everything. And to have that humility and consistently have that humility, even when you're having a $10 million month, to say, you know what, this month was great. Do I really know how to get to 20 million in 6 months? And really having that humility to say that, you know what, maybe I don't. And maybe there's other things that I need to start doing as my business grows.
I absolutely love that. And I think, you guys nailed it with the whole ego thing, right? And coaches putting that to the side is so important, right? Because it does jeopardize you in the long run. It really does. And I think another thing that, I've seen over and over again is the overconsumption of information, and the overconsumption of going to too many coaches at the same time.
Infobesity,
right? That's that word, infobesity. And
that's great.
And it's funny because it's just like I see it more and more social media, especially now with you got the Clubhouse, and I think it's great, but it's just like I tell people all the time.
Clubhouse dropped 90%.
I heard it dropped 90%.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
not great.
Yeah, because now everybody's going back to, because of COVID, everything's starting to open up again, and now people are not spending enough more time on their phones. So
people spending hours on Clubhouse at a time, a whole day,
8 hours, 10 hours.
How do you run a business? Do you work? Yeah. Do you eat? Like, what do you do in that time?
What's interesting to me about that, and I read a statistic somewhere that was like only 10% of people actually complete the courses that they buy. Yep. And I found what was interesting about that is that at that point, it's just almost a security blanket, right? There's almost a level where you're feeling inside. Again, it's that mindset thing that, you don't trust yourself. You don't have enough trust in yourself, in your own brain, in your own heart, that you can do this. And it's really coming back to those stories. Look at, one of my favorite stories, and he was a total bastard, but Ray Kroc is one of my favorite stories. The guy was freaking selling ice cream or milkshake machines. He was 52 years old when he went to the McDonald's brothers hamburger stand and said, oh man, you guys have something here. Let me franchise it. 52 years, right? And someone
probably rolling in his grave now, though, because they're all broken.
They're always broken, right? Because nobody actually wants to make you a milkshake. But no, listen, his success was meteoric, right? As soon as in 1954, he started franchising it. By 1961, it was massive, right? In 5 years, 6 years, he blew it up, right? And someone said to him, it's like, oh, you're an overnight success. And he was like, yeah, overnight, but my night was 32 years long. He was, literally selling door to door. So, you got to think about, you got to keep that in mind, honestly, when you're going to play this game, that it is an absolute marathon. And you have to, at some point, just trust yourself to start going, right? And I'm not a big fan of this whole take messy action. Messy action is just messy. It's not anything good, right? And I think a lot of these phrases came out of Silicon Valley, right? So we move fast and break things. We're going to take messy action. And that's great if you're, coding something. But if you're actually trying to build a business, this is very bad, because messy action generally doesn't come with a lot of thought behind it. And so you really want to take intentional action and really know where you're going before you start moving there. But
yeah,
at some point, you gotta move, right? Infobesity is a real problem.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a big thing that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to getting all of this information is, at the end of the day, you do still have to apply it. And when that statistic that you brought up kind of blew my mind, that 10%, of people don't even complete the course. You said 10%, right? That's what it was.
Yeah, they actually are the only ones that complete the course.
Oh, okay.
So everyone
Right.
buys all these courses,
right?
But only 10% of people actually watch the whole thing.
So I got a question for you guys on the creator side, on the person who's actually creating the course. How do you get people to buy into the fact that, like, listen, if you do complete this course, right, you are going to be successful. Like, you do have to kind of take that risk. You do have to believe in me, even though with your dollars, not only your time, but your dollars, in order to find that extra level of success, even though, you don't fully believe in yourself when it comes to being able to produce at that level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at the course creator, and Casey, you step in, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the course creator market, because listen, content creation is up, a gajillion %, right, over the last 3 years. Everyone is doing content stuff, right? Everyone's selling a digital course.
There's more platforms.
I just made a TikTok for my dogs and my cat. I'm super pumped about that. Go ahead and follow that. 2.5 dogs.
He was telling me, he's like, man, my dog account is growing
Bro,
faster
it's
than my
blowing
personal
up
account.
compared to my account. Super pissed.
So, I mean, for me, I think what needs to start happening, if those that are really going to hit that next level in the market as the business cycle sort of, I think we're nearing sort of a top to the content creation business cycle. I think the market is getting quite saturated. Now I'm seeing courses on how to create a course, which is like super meta now. So like, it's like, I think what's going to have to start happening is these content creators are actually going to need to focus on how they're really driving value, right? And for me, and it comes back to the hard stuff, it's got to be a personal connection. Because if you're going to say to someone, listen, I'm going to guide you, I'm going to be your mentor here, watch my course. This to me is very iffy. I think that in the next phase of this market, you're going to see people actually giving a little bit more back to the one-on-one, right? Like, as a bonus, if you complete my course, right, and you still need additional help, I'll give you 3 one-on-one sessions, right? Or building out an infrastructure where it's not just if we're building out an infrastructure where it's not like a team of VAs, but it's a team of people you've actually trained in your system to then go out and again give more value. I think what's interesting, and Casey and I were talking about this last night, is that when people think about scaling, they think about scaling only up, right? The only way to scale is go up. You got to find the next line and the next line. But what about scaling horizontally? What about really scaling in value so that each person you already have clients, deliver more value to those clients, and you actually scale horizontally and still see larger revenues? Yeah, Casey, I would love to hear what you think about this.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, it's a great question. And so when you think of the first thing is, if you think of your course as distinct from you as the person. And I think when you view it that way, here's a product, let me sell you, and I'll just move on. That's one of the issues that we've seen with entrepreneurs, these big masterminds and so on, which is, $9.99, join the course, get some email support, but you really don't hear from the person you want to hear from. And so for me, I've in the past for clients, I've shot a video, screen share, some talking heads, bring a few things in and send it to them. That person listened to the video for 20, 30, 35 minutes, did some work on their own, and then we put a phone call together where we were able to connect. I mean, we literally, it was more efficient. We took a 4-hour phone call and kind of bubbled it up. It happened over a few days on our own time. So where I see things going is the word is really kind of a cohort, if you will. And it's this idea of like, I really see it merging between the course really being a complement to the entrepreneur, to the advisor, to the thought leader, right? So if you're thinking about scale, well, I can't coach everybody. Of course you can't. You want to get bigger, right? But the idea is you can obviously do weekly group sessions via Zoom. You can talk to everybody. If they want to pay for one-on-one, they can. But how I think the issue that I've seen is, here's my product, the course, go run with it and call me later or pay more if you want my opinion. That's why a lot of people aren't completing it, because I mean, imagine having people train and they don't have the wherewithal or the discipline, and they just don't end up doing it, or they lie about it. Or they think right? Or they think they've accomplished something just by buying the course, but they haven't opened it up or logged in. And so where I see things going is, I mean, I think course creation is going to continue. It should continue. I think they're beautiful things if you have add value and you've thought it through. Where I see it really is marrying is a lot of these entrepreneurs being able to marry themselves, as kind of the old saying, the belts and the suspenders, like, go do this at a self-pace, do this on your own, do it while you run, do it when you have time, and then we always regroup. And then we come together and I'm able to answer questions, whether it's office hours, whether it's a connection, and the price is included. I mean, when you really think about it, if you've got 50, 500 or 5,000 people in a course, do a Zoom call, do it twice a week, do it 3 times a week. That's 3 hours out of there, and you're able to hit close to everybody. So I don't see course is going away. I really see the next evolution of them is going back to the word you use, kind of marrying kind of back to the root of like, let's take this person with the idea who's inspiring, who's inspirational, and kind of layer it back in. And then you've got all the self-paced work, which they can refer to. Oh, you didn't do module 5? We're not talking until you do it. I'll see you next week, right? Like, you're able to kind of push and pull levers. I don't see courses going away. I don't see them as kind of siloed on their own anymore.
No, I agree with that. And I think just, Casey, something that's interesting that came up for me when you were talking is that, again, it's these course creators think only of, I need to get to X number of clients in order to have $100,000 a month. Well, what if you cut X in half and had $400,000 a month because you offer more value, right? If you're more selective in the upfront, right? Instead of just offering a course, putting it on Facebook and saying, anyone who wants it, come buy it, right? Be more selective. Really make sure that the person that you want in that course is your ideal client, is the person you're trying to reach. And then you can actually give them more time and they will pay you more. Yeah. You can actually deliver more value and garner higher rates instead of just focusing on, like Anthony, that guy that was thinking about what the pricing should be, right? Look, Casey and I have seen it. Large corporates will pay, $200,000, $300,000 for just me and Casey to come in for 3 weeks, right? I mean, it really just depends on how are you delivering value to the customer. And that's why, Casey and I focus so much on LTV, on lifetime value of the client. If instead you could have 10 clients paying you each $40,000, you actually have a much more manageable business than trying to scale to the moon in terms of clients and offering much less value.
I love it. And I think this topic right here that we touched upon, I think it's a great way to wrap it up, because I think that more coaches, more entrepreneurs need to hear this. And I feel that moving through the course world, I think that when courses first started, I think everybody was on the speed of, how can I step away from actually getting one-on-one, not just giving a pre-recorded course and that's it. They don't have access to me at all. Dumb, but I'm going to sell something.
Oh, it's going to be fully automated.
Fully automated, everything.
5-hour work week.
But people don't understand that, hey, people want you're paying for you, right? They want your attention. Now, don't get me wrong. Of course, there's different levels. If you have a low ticket, high ticket, right? People can have a certain level of attention. But that's why even in my course, even with my lowest one, like, you're going to still get 2 sessions in there with me. And if you need extra one, I put it in there in case. So even my low, you still have some level of access. And obviously you're saying if you want ongoing support, there's a way we can work that to continue getting ongoing support. But I think it is important. I think having what I would call the hybrid, right? Where you can have like the group sessions, have everybody come together, but you as the coach, you're still available in there, because at the end of the day, you're representing what the value is being driven to these individuals. And it's so funny because I think things are starting to go back a little bit backwards, where there was more level of attention. And I'm even seeing it not even with just a course alone. I'm also seeing it with lead generation. phone calls are coming back.
Yeah.
Phone calls are coming
Yeah.
back. People are actually now starting to do phone calls again. And I think, you know what? It is interesting because I even jumped on another one. Somebody was like, man, I'm surprised you called me. It's really great to hear somebody's voice. I haven't heard somebody call me in a long time. You know, so that personal touch, it's like, boom. And I think that a lot of these old school roots are starting to come back, just obviously in a different way. But I think they're important, and when you can mesh them with what's new, I think it's going to really disrupt and create some amazing things, guys.
Anthony, the term that the consultants use for what you just said is customer centricity, right? Putting the customer back in the middle and the center and focusing on them. And, you know, kudos to you, Anthony, for even doing that. I mean, that's the mindset that some people have inherently, like you do, which is, hey, I'm running a business, I'm making good money, I've got the time, I'm going to bake in 3 sessions, while other people, like you mentioned, don't even want the 3 sessions. They just want to automate it. But that strategy, that customer centricity strategy that you have, and that I think I know you're parlaying, that you're imparting on your audience, and that Nick and I do as well, and JD, is this idea of like, bake in a few more sessions and look at the exponential rewards you get. More loyal customers, more success, more testimonials, more referrals. That's the whole idea of doing it. And so you're either born with it, like I think you are, or you teach it, and Nick and I are trying to teach a similar type of strategy.
No, I love this, guys, and I really appreciate your time. You know, personally, I got to say thank you guys.
Oh,
for
man, I've learned
all
so
the help.
much.
Yeah.
So much. Appreciate you guys.
And Josh was excited, too, because I was telling him about you guys beforehand, and he was just like, man, I can't wait to hear these guys, because
I mean, it's a lot of the stuff
some
that
of the stuff I was doing with you guys
yeah, a
already.
lot of the stuff that I need to hear, you know, kind of heading in towards, you know, wrapping up his course and really diving into it. So, like I said, I've learned a ton of value, and I know the people who are going to be listening to this are as well. Thank you guys so much. Where can people reach out to you? How can they find out more about your company and how they can work with you?
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram. My full name is Nikhil, Nikhil, and the last name Agharkar, Agharkar. And then Casey as well, I believe, has an Instagram handle. It's the Real Casey Berman, right?
Real Casey Berman, Real CASEYBERMAN. We kicked off this idea about 2 months ago. BAM, BAM, BAM and Co, BAM and Company. So more info and links coming out soon. But find us there. But it's been an honor to be here. I love these conversations. Really appreciate it. For you guys having us. This has been great.
Yeah, no, this is truly being impactful and fun. And, you know, like I always like to end it, we always like to end it with some little rapid fire questions. So we want to definitely hit you guys and see what answers you guys got.
Ooh.
Let's do it.
All right.
Lightning round.
Question number 1, and both of you guys get to answer. All right. What is the craziest experience you've ever had working with a 1,000 Fortune company?
Oof. Casey, you go first. I've got a few
so Microsoft wanted to do research on, this was back in 2010 or so, to help their distributors, their secondhand machines. They have all these computers. How do they refurbish them? Part of it was just looking good. Part of it was actual environmental. How do they go and they refurbish machines throughout the developing country, Africa, Asia, and so on? I traveled Africa. I went to I was in Ghana and a number of South America and so on. So here I am doing research, and we're literally creating the refurbishment secondhand computer strategy for Microsoft. And we're looking, and there's all these computers that this person in Ghana has in a dirt field. There's goats walking around, and he has a computer shop there. It's crazy. And it's great what he's doing. He's servicing people to get computers into the developing country. And I looked at him and I said, well, what do you do, like, if it rains? And he just said, I look, and if I see the clouds coming, I put them inside. And one, the ingenuity of it all, and it was just celebrating it, but like it really struck me, like there was like 100 Dell machines in the middle of this field, and that's his backup plan, right? So just showing the digital divide of what we take for granted here with our, you know, if the internet's slow, of what developing countries are dealing with, really blew my mind of, one, how lucky we are here, but two, just also showed how much infrastructure there still is to go for many people across the world. So that kind of blew my mind.
Crazy.
Yeah, I have another kind of crazy story. This medical device company brought us in to fix some of their supply chain issues. And we found out that they basically at that time had $1.2 billion worth of inventory just sitting on their shelves. So this is obviously way too much. So in digging through why this was happening, we found out that the person that was tasked to do the forecasting actually passed it off to the intern. And the intern created this terrible forecast that ended up them ordering all of this extra stuff. And it's just, it's look, I mean, so I tell this story, I guess, just to think, look, you, Mr. Entrepreneur, you're doing pretty good because even these major corporations make huge mistakes and on a massive scale, right? Can you imagine $1.2 billion of inventory? We did help them sell.
I would fucking cry. I'd cry every night. I would cry every fucking night to sleep.
Oh, man. Final 2 questions. What is one super random fact or something about yourselves that nobody knows about you?
I love rom-coms. Love them. I absolutely love romantic comedies. I'm the last guy you would think would, but I love them. My wife makes fun of me nonstop.
Love rom-coms. Wow, that I did not know. What's something no one knows about me? Well, now they are going to know. That's I say, well, no. So I played baseball, but I wish I had pitched in high school. I played left field. So when I run my dog, no one really knows this, but I go to this park nearby and I literally just pitch strikeouts. There's the strikeout thing, and the dog runs around in the tennis horse, and I just kind of like this. I do my Madison Bumgarner. I'm a Giants fan, but I literally play out games and sequences. I don't throw left, throw right, but I literally pretend I'm a pitcher and no one's watching, so I can do what I want. So I think that's the
MLB.
That's great. The behind the scenes,
fantasy.
yeah.
Behind the scenes, on second, I got to pitch from the stretch.
He's running over here.
Every pitch is a strike too. Every pitch. If it's low or out of the zone, he swung at us.
Oh man. Last and final questions for both of you. What is the biggest piece of advice you can both leave off to all our listeners today in one single sentence?
I can do it in 2 words. Go slow. Go slow. There's no such thing as an overnight success. Go slow. Keep going.
Yeah. I would say just know there is a better way. And so if you're struggling, if you're down, anxious, or you're doing great but just overwhelmed, there's a better way. It's it's a course correction which could be a simple tick that you need to make. But I would just say that regardless, there's always a better way if you so choose.
Love that. Guys, way to end this segment today. We really appreciate you having you on here. I know our audience is going to have a lot of big takeaways. You guys heard it from 2 amazing individuals disrupting the game.
Yeah, thank you guys one more time for coming on. We really appreciate it, and we know it's going to drive a ton of value to our clients or to our listeners as well.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
This was great, guys. Thank you so much for having us on.
Woo! Till next time.